Professional wrestling is the single greatest entertainment spectacle in the world, bar none. Wrestling is enjoyed in vast quantity on every continent, and if you actually believe WWE, since they have a universal championship, that means there's definitely aliens watching as well. Now keep that in mind, as I point out that as awesome as our beloved wrestling is, it is known for some rather unintelligent moments as well. Sometimes funny, sometimes cringeworthy, and sometimes egregious. These are the moments that if aliens actually are watching, I'm pretty sure they'd give up on the human race. I'm Walt, the most gangster nerd on YouTube, and these are 10 times wrestling was really hard to watch. Number 10, TNA's Reverse Battle Royal. The Battle Royal is a classic. A large number of wrestlers in the ring at once, each eliminated only when thrown over the top rope and both feet touch the floor. Last man standing is the winner. It's incredibly simple and at the same time incredibly brilliant. There's no way anybody could mess this up. Well, that's where you're wrong, kiddo. In 2006, TNA, and someone who will remain nameless, not only managed to mess up the Battle Royal, but defile it, violate it, and scar it forever. Starting outside the ring, 18 different competitors would fight to get into the ring. And if that wasn't stupid enough, once 7 wrestlers managed to get into the ring, the match then became a standard Battle Royal. Once down to the final 2 participants, the match then became a standard pinfall or submission. This is ridiculously overcomplicated. How anyone could have thought this was a good idea seems bizarre, but then when you think about who came up with this idea, well then things kinda make sense. Number 9, Kane gives Shane McMahon a jump. Oh my god, yes, this actually happened on live television. Shane McMahon vs. Kane was a hot program. Beginning when Kane tombstoned Linda McMahon, and that's always an interesting way to start, Shane O'Mac and Kane would subject each other to some hellacious attacks, such as seeing Kane pour a fresh drum of whoop-ass all over Shane while he was recovering in the hospital, leaving him bleeding. Also, Shane would lock Kane in a limo, jam the gears in the gas pedal, thus crashing Kane into a truck. But what everybody remembers, whether they admit it or not, is that night back in 2003, Eric Bischoff would call out Shane to the ring, in effect setting him up. During their exchange, Kane's music would hit, the lights would go out, and Shane would be jumped from behind. Kane would proceed to handcuff Shane to a ring post, take a car battery, hook jumper cables to the battery, and the other end to Shane. Number 8, Joey Mercury's ladder botch. Now Joey Murray was great, especially as part of Eminem with Johnny Nitro and Melina. Unfortunately for him, his best remembered moment with that tag team came in 2006 at Armageddon. In a tag team ladder match against the Hardys, Jeff Hardy would come off the top rope and land on one end of a ladder, having a seesaw effect, with the other end lifting suddenly and smashing Joey Mercury right in the face, breaking his nose and eye orbital, leaving his face a bloody mess. This is perhaps the best example of how some things don't always go as planned. Number 7, Tommy Dreamer makes out with 2 girls. Going back to that magical ECW Hostile City Showdown 1996 pay-per-view, during a segment with Shane Douglas, Tommy Dreamer, with Bella McGillicuddy, his valet, who had previously been with Raven, but left after publicly announcing she was pregnant by Tommy Dreamer. Oh, all the fun you could have explaining that to your children. But Tommy Dreamer and Bella were joined this time by Kimona Wanalea. Cut to the point, Tommy Dreamer starts making out with both of them. And I don't want to watch it either. Stop it. Stop it now. Number 6, Jeff Hardy vs. Sting 2011 Victory Road. Oh, TNA. Chuckle, chuckle, chuckle. This is the time every wrestling nerd thought they were about to get a dream match, but instead received a slow-motion train wreck. 2011's Victory Road pay-per-view main event was supposed to be awesome. Unfortunately, Jeff Hardy, being the genius he is, would decide to get intoxicated beforehand. He would stagger to the ring, and if you pay attention, you can see the ref throw up the X right here. Eric Bischoff would come to the ring, stating the match was now a no DQ, and after briefly speaking with both wrestlers and shaking Jeff's hand, he would leave ringside. Sting would then grab Jeff, stiff him, death drop him, and cover him, and roll out the ring, leaving all the fans disappointed and angry. What makes things worse is the fact that someone had to allow Jeff to go to the ring in that condition, and who was working at TNA's gorilla position that night? Well, Number 5. Brock Lesnar's WrestleMania Shooting Star Press. Brock Lesnar is 6'3", 286 pounds, so of course he should be doing a Shooting Star Press. And he should definitely do it during the main event at WrestleMania, and absolutely should do it when he already has the match won. Yes, change my mind. But in all seriousness though, at WrestleMania 19, the fans were treated to what Jim Ross would call a slobber knocker. Seeing Kurt Angle and Brock Lesnar, two legitimate bona fide wrestlers, put each other through the ringer, and after a spectacular match, Brock Lesnar would perch himself on the top rope, pose for a moment, and launch into the Shooting Star Press. Now it is fair to point out that Lesnar had performed and landed Shooting Star Presses several times in his career, but this time was different. His foot would slip as he jumped, and he would not be able to fully rotate around, thus landing on his head and neck and giving himself an immediate concussion. He did manage to win the match, but was the F5 just not good enough? I guess we'll never know. Number 4. Scott Hall at Top Rope Promotions. Scott Hall's battles with his personal demons are well known and documented. 2 divorces from the same woman, 8 totaled Cadillacs, even being called Last Call Scott Hall. And when you consider how far he's come since, being clean, DDP yoga, and even doing appearances, it gives you a really happy, warm feeling. But back in 2011, at an indie show for Top Rope Promotions, things were different. Scott Hall would show up to the event in absolutely no shape to perform, having to literally be carried to the ring as he couldn't walk on his own. He would then cut an incoherent promo, and after the match between Gino Giovanni and Just Incredible, he would proceed to what can only be called botch his own spots. He would then need to be helped out of the ring by 2 others. The whole thing was so hard to watch that several wrestlers have publicly stated that promoted Scott Rickard should have never allowed him to perform. Number 3. New Jack destroys Gypsy Joe. Now when it comes to New Jack, keep 2 things in mind. 1, you really shouldn't try to make him mad, and 2, he's crazy enough to attempt to kill you in front of whoever may be around. With that in mind, New Jack found himself booked in a hardcore match with the then 69-year-old Gypsy Joe. Now let that sink in a moment. New Jack, hardcore match, 69-year-old man. What could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turns out, everything. New Jack initially wanted no part of this match, but was talked into it anyway. Before the match, Gypsy Joe even came up and said, "I'm gonna teach you how to wrestle, boy." So New Jack decided, why not? And from there, everything went wrong. Gypsy Joe would try to manhandle New Jack, giving him a stiff headbutt and a stiff shot to the face, all while no-selling all of New Jack's offense. So New Jack, being New Jack, went full shoot, seemingly attempting to kill Gypsy Joe, beating him with anything and everything he could get his hands on, before finally throwing Joe into a row of chairs and leaving, threatening the people in the crowd as he left. Finally, the promoter of the event would call the match off for, and you won't believe this, excessive violence. Go figure. Number 2. IWA MidSouth's Mike Livie incident. IWA MidSouth alone could very easily provide enough content for this list and several others like it. The overly violent, extremely bloody, and incredibly stupid antics of Ian Rotten and those who for some reason work with and for him have led to a lot of negative implications and assertions about wrestling. But if you had to boil it down to one thing that was hard to watch, it would be what wrestling fans refer to as the Mike Livie incident. In 2008, internet wrestling boards began hyping a North Carolina-based indie wrestler named Mike Livie. Why is anyone's guess, as the man's level of training, wrestling ability, and experience are questionable to say the least. Ian Rotten would become aware of this and would actually book Mike Livie for his upcoming Queen of the Deathmatch tournament. Yes, Queen. IWA Mid-South. Moving right along, this match alone is hard enough to watch. However, during the match, Mike Livie would apparently botch something, and in retaliation for this, 2 other wrestlers named Devin Moore and Tank would come to the ring and proceed to assault Livie, throwing what appears to be real punches, and Tank, a 400-pound wrestler, doing a jumping curb stomp off of the second rope onto Livie across an aluminum ladder. Then, more beating, and this is seriously hard to watch. Now, in all fairness, all criminal charges and investigations were dropped, as Mike Livie said himself, this was a work. He even stayed and watched the remainder of the show, and has been booked by IWA MidSouth since. I seriously hope it was worth it. Number 1, Sid Breaks His Leg. Now this one's hard for anybody to watch, and once you learn the story behind it, it only gets worse. Sid Vicious was an awesome wrestler. Though his promo skills are the stuff of legend for all the wrong reasons, most people who remember Sid's wrestling days do so fondly. Being a seemingly psychotic heel and a hilarious babyface, I think we all loved Sid. And on January 14th, 2001, at the WCW pay-per-view Sin, yes, that was the name, Sid would participate in a 4-corner world title match. Now behind the scenes, John Laurinaitis, aka Johnny Ace, aka the inspiration for TYFYB, had been pressuring Sid to incorporate an off-the-ropes move into his repertoire. Sid had no interest in this, stating that even the double axe handle off the ropes made him nervous. But when told what to do, Sid would do it. During the match, Sid would climb off the second rope, jump off delivering a big boot to Scott Steiner, and when he landed, he snapped both his tibia and his fibula, pretty much ruining some of his best top years. And that is hard to watch. And that's the list. You know I'm right, but if you really think you can argue with me, try it in the comments. I'm Walt, the most gangster nerd on YouTube, and I'll be seeing you soon enough.